Tonight we're going to be talking about organ-based blood sugar control and what specific organs in the body actually control our blood sugar or monitor our blood sugar. This information actually comes from my mentor, Dr. Chris Peterson, through the Diplomat in Internal Disorders course. So I actually have a handout. If you're interested in this handout, call Ashley at the office and we can actually fax or make this available to you as well. Because it actually gives us a great baseline for being able to look at the way that different organs have a relationship to maintaining blood sugar. Remember, we've talked about in the past that when blood sugar is not well maintained, it's actually one of the things that we consider as a deal breaker when it comes to recovering the adrenal glands. So blood sugars, excessive blood sugar is something we call hyperglycemia, and low blood sugar is something we refer to as hypoglycemia. More commonly, hyperglycemia is diagnosed as a condition called diabetes, and the hypoglycemia is just that, hypoglycemia. Okay? The interesting thing, though, that we find is, in the body, when we look at blood sugar, optimally, blood sugar is nothing more than an attempt of the body to maintain an optimal range. So there isn't just a hard, fast number that the blood sugar, in essence, stays at. We're constantly fluctuating, and that we call homeostasis. In a fasting state, should be between 85 and 100. So as we're resting during the night and fasting, our blood sugars are actually going up and down between this range, and it's maintained, or these spikes and valleys occur by different organs responding. When we eat something, there's actually a response as well in the body, and tonight I'd like to just introduce that concept of different organs and their relationship and their function and the timing in which they actually fire or kick in. Okay? So let's look at these organs. And again, it'll be kind of a graph, and we'll just go through this graph as a reference tonight. So when we look, this is based off of a glucose tolerance test, or a 6-hour interval, wherein time 0 is your initial blood test, and then we'll measure it again at a half hour, again at 1 hour, again at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 hours after eating. Okay? So initially then we'll get up, and this is a simple home glucose tolerance test that we reference, and it's based on 30 minutes after eating we would eat 2 oranges, 2 bananas, and 6 dates. So you can imagine that's quite a sugar load for your body. Okay? So this would be time 0, eat the meal, and 1/2 hour later we measure what the blood sugar level is just by a finger stick, and that organ that should be functioning then is the liver, followed by the pancreas at 1 hour, followed by at 2 hours the adrenals, at 3 hours the gonads, at 4 hours, the thyroid. At 5 hours, thymus and spleen. And that stays true also then for 6 hours after we've eaten. Okay? So let's actually put this above as a representation also. So we have this to refer to as well. Okay? So each one of these times then has a specific organ response, and each of these then will actually give us, based on its activity, a hyper or a hypofunctioning response. Okay? So let's just say, for example, if we fill out this graph, and you can see where it says where that range should be. Okay? So in the first half hour, we should actually get a spiking of our blood sugar that comes up to 150, potentially up to 150, and then can actually stay down as low as, again, 85. So that's our reference on that initiation. And what we'll look at is, on the total, that could potentially bump down to 75. So let's just use this as our reference range. Starting out again, we said 85 to 100 would be our baseline, okay, at our 0 time. Our half hour, it can go up to 150, and on our lower range can be up to 110. So we'll use this as mark 100, so up to 110, okay? At an hour, the blood sugar should be somewhere between the 100 range and as low as 90, 85 again to 90, okay? At 2 hours, it should be in between the range of, on adrenal, somewhere between 90 and 80, 75, 80, so right in this area still. And then the gonads time, still about in this area. Thyroid may drop just a bit. And then spleen and thymus again regulating in this region. Okay? Here's the nice thing about this. As we graph between this, these are the ideal reference ranges. Does that make sense? Okay, is that easy enough to follow? So when we look at this now, let's just put in somebody's response. Let's say that a person with hyperglycemia or a high blood sugar, in the morning they check their blood sugar and it's at 110. They eat a meal and it bumps up to 180. And then, because their pancreas doesn't work, it stays high up in this area, but then it starts to come down. It tries to come down, but it never actually gets back into the range. Okay? So their graph would look something like this. The interesting thing is, if that's what the graph looks like, we can actually see a reference range that stays above is a hyperfunctioning liver. Okay? A reference range that stays above for the pancreas is a hypofunctioning pancreas, right? Lack of insulin production. The adrenals, hyperfunctioning. Gonadal, hypofunctioning. Thyroid, hypofunctioning. Thymus and spleen, overactive. Okay? So the thyroid also plays a role, as do the gonads, the testicles and the ovaries, in the body in playing a response or a responsibility for blood sugar maintenance. Okay? So again, if somebody has severe hypoglycemia and they are down in this range to start out, when their